Welcome to the very first episode of The Balanced Blueprint, the podcast where we talk about building success without losing sight of what matters most. I'm Annette Orange, and each week we'll dive into the mindset, the family dynamics, and the business strategies that help us live better, not just busier. If you've ever felt stretched between work, home, and your own goals, this podcast is for you. Okay, so let's start with a quote of the day. Jim Rohn once said, "Success is nothing more than a few simple disciplines practiced every day." Okay, this resonates with me so much because it's the little things that get us the furthest in our business. And this exactly is what this show is about. Taking small, consistent steps to balance your life, fuel your family, and grow your business. Okay, so there are a few topics that I'm going to discuss today, and then I'll keep it consistent and we'll discuss every podcast, okay? So what we want to talk about first is why balance matters, okay? So if you're an entrepreneur and you've been on this track for some time, or you know others that are entrepreneurs, we know that burnout is real. So many entrepreneurs build businesses but sacrifice health, relationships, or peace. Okay, but here's the thing. We have to have balance, but balance isn't perfection. It's awareness and making small, intentional adjustments over time. Okay, the second thing I want to talk about is the power of mindset. Okay, so we got to control our mindset because it's very important. And I think about a quote by Napoleon Hill from his book, Think and Grow Rich. Success starts with clarity of thought and focus, okay? So taking the time to think about what we're going to do and then having the focus to bring those in mind, okay? Another thing about the power of mindset is the resilience of being able to reframe setbacks as lessons that help us, right? So an example of these two things, right, is one, the clarity of thought and focus is on your calendar, which we should all be living towards, is blocking out time in your calendar for thinking time, right? Thinking about what we're thinking and setting aside that dedicated time that we're building out intentional things that are intentional that help us move the needle in our business and get us to our goals. So setting aside that thinking time every week, maybe on a Sunday, and also setting aside that thinking time at night where we may be jotting down notes or reaffirming our goals or lining up our to-dos. And this is just as simple as if you're a real estate agent, I know for 100% sure that you have a calendar that you are living by, right? You have everything time blocked. And it's just so simple as pulling out your phone and pulling up your Google Calendar and reading out, making sure that you've gone over what is happening tomorrow, right? Or what's happening for the week. Right? And then the second thing when it comes to power of mindset is reframing the setbacks as lessons. And so if you're in real estate, if you're in any type of sales, you get told no all the time. And that's because the road through the no's is the way to the yeses, right? So when we're told those no's, when we don't get those appointments, we're able to reframe those setbacks as lessons, okay? And I'll give you an example of that. It's one, cold calling, right? If you're cold calling sellers for their business, you're going to get a bunch of no, I'm not interested. You're going to get those objections. And then there are going to be times where there are objections that you're unable to overcome, right? So what you want to do is take that objection that you were unable to overcome. You want to study the objection, the way to overcome it, and you want to practice that. You want to get into a role play group, a script practicing group, and you want to get good at that objection so the next time you're hit with it, you're ace it. You're able to overcome that objection and get the appointment, or you're able to overcome the objection and you're able to get the listing agreement signed, okay? All right, so the third thing, and let's move on, that we'll talk about in every podcast that we do, in every session that we meet, is family as the first team, okay? So I want to give you another quote, and I'll give a lot of quotes in these because I read a lot, and I feel like these are very helpful. And this is coming from Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. It says, put first things first, okay? And so guess what? On that schedule, we're going to go back to that calendar that we have where we time blocked. We've time blocked family time, okay? Then we've also time blocked me time or you time, so that there's that balance in between work, business, and our personal lives to where we've already dedicated the time to things that are most important to us, family. We've dedicated, time on our calendar for dinner every night that's uninterrupted. We've dedicated time to make sure that we're at our children's appointments or at school events that are important to them. We've dedicated time for, date night and quality time with our significant other to keep the relationship going. Okay. And then another part of that, family as the first team, right? This is the third point. Family as the first team is that family teaches teamwork and patience. And these are two very important skills that you're going to need in order to build a successful real estate business. You're going to have to learn to work with others in all scenarios, whether you're working on the other side of the table with the buyer's agent, the listing agent, the closing attorney, the lender. We're all in a team together, the home inspector, and then also working on the team with your buyer or seller because you both have a common goal, and patience in those scenarios. So family teaches us to work together as a team. Family is the first team because this is the first team that you've intentionally created, right? And then the patience, dealing with our significant other and dealing with our children, those lessons that we learn within the relationship, those skills translate directly into business, okay? And so the fourth thing that I'm going to hit on, and then we're going to wrap it up, okay, is business as a tool for freedom. And as we go through these lessons together and as we go through these podcasts, this is how I want us to view business, right? As a tool for freedom, not as a job. And I'll throw another quote out to you by one of a book that I've read over and over again, and one that you should incorporate into your business life, especially if you're a real estate agent, is the Millionaire Real Estate Agent by Gary Keller. He says to treat your business like a system, okay, not a job. Okay, so we're treating our business like a system. And the reason why we want to say a system, because systems are automatic processes, is a combination of processes and people that are put in place to help our business run effectively so that we're giving a consistent and positive result in customer service and hitting the goal. So that's why we treat our business like a system. And we're also treating our business like a system because a system is going to give us the structure, and structure creates freedom. So we should look at our business like a system that we created that gives us freedom, unlike a job which is created by someone else, and that doesn't give us freedom. It gives us control. Okay. All right. So that's how we want to think of our business, and that also the business should fund the lifestyle that we want, not trap us into an endless hustle. So we're not here to be hustling all day and hustling all night and walking and running around here like chickens with our head cut off. We want a business that's built on a system that funds the lifestyle that we want, because we're in this to build a life by design. That's why a lot of us became real estate agents, because we wanted to build a life that we wanted, that we envisioned ourselves having, that we envisioned that we deserved. And we also are building a lifestyle for our children and our children's children, right? And so when we think of our business, that's what it's doing. That's the funding. That's where the money is going towards lifestyle, not necessarily material things. And if material things are a part of that lifestyle, then great. I have some material things that are a part of my lifestyle. But the point is not to be trapped in a hustle where you don't have time for yourself, you don't have time for your family, and you don't have balance, okay? So those are the things the four things that we're going to speak on every time, okay? So let's go ahead and wrap it up with some practical takeaways. Yes, every week there will be homework, okay? So this week, I challenge you to do these three things, right? Mindset-wise, I want you to write down 3 quotes that inspire you, okay? Just 3, and post them on Post-it notes so where you can see them daily. So that may be on your mirror, on your refrigerator, on your bedroom door, on the front door, wherever, somewhere in your car, but somewhere where you'll see these 3 quotes that inspire you, because we want inspiration that's going to get us to the perspiration, okay? The second thing I want you to do is schedule one intentional moment with your family or loved ones this week. Maybe it's a night out to dinner, something special with the kids, something that you can do to be intentional with your family, because guess what? Family is your first team. Okay. And then the third thing that I want you to do, and this is business development wise, which is very important because we want that balance, right? I want you to pick a book to reread or reread this month. Okay. If you're in sales, I recommend just to start How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie, right? Because this is a people business, right? Or I want you to read Sell or Be Sold by Grant Cardone. All of those on Prime. I'll link those in the description here so that you can click on those and get those 2 books if you would like. Now, I've said a lot, and I want to also give you a little takeaway tool or tip. I use HP Smart in my business, and HP Smart is actually funding this podcast for you today. So if you're interested in HP Smart, it helps me to, easily print documents. I have a monthly subscription. You can also get a printer as well. But this gives me the ease in knowing that I don't have to chase down ink, that I always have the ability to print for a small monthly fee. Okay, so hey, that's it. That's all that I have. Thank you for joining me in my very first episode of The Balance Blueprint. If this inspired you, subscribe, share it with someone who is also chasing success without burning out. Okay, you can follow me on Instagram and TikTok at AO Real Estate ATL, and let's keep building success that lasts. Take care, you guys.